Welcome back, commanders, to another video, and today we're going to be bringing you the ATG testing. I've been asked probably by half of the entire Warpath community now to please test the ATG and just to find out what is the best option possible. So I'm not going to go through every single possible combination of every single officer in the game because there's just way too many and it would literally take forever, but we are going to be testing the main ones. I asked you guys on Discord what you think is also going to be some options you want to see, and we're going to go through and try and test them. Now, I thought the best way to do this is to kind of go through and get, you know, the average attacks. We're going to do 2 attacks with each individual officer, so every attack we do is going to be done twice just to kind of get an average out of 2, and we're going to be using the same super heavy every single time. The super heavy is just a maxed out 9.2, and it is going to have Iron Cavalier and Zvalin on there. The officers themselves do not have any skill training, and you're gonna be like, but Scopes, they always have skill training. Even if I put on 20% damage resist, and then on the offense one I put on 30% or 20% damage, it's going to negate them. So we're going to just test the officers themselves. Obviously, when you put skills on, it's just going to purely increase them in that field. But we're going to just be testing the officers themselves, and then you guys can choose what you wish to add on. With that being said, guys, as I mentioned, we are going to do the same test. Now, I thought the best way for me to start this test is just by using my own combination, which is what I currently use of Vox and Eagle. Now, I have Vox and Eagle on the ATG that is inside this base. The only unit that's in that base is the ATG. Now, obviously, when you are attacking a base, you are going to be getting attacked by other things, but just to keep it ATG only, we're purely testing one unit at a time. It's going to take a long time to go through because I've got to retrain this super heavy what's probably going to be about 100 times. And as we know, the super heavy takes a long time. So just on how long it's going to take to retrain alone, we're looking at a couple of hours to do this testing. So if you appreciate all the work we're putting in here, please think about hitting that like button and subscribing if you haven't already done so. So let's move on, guys. As I said, the first reason I'm doing this is, one, it's my setup. You know, I use Vox and Eagle purely because, you know, technically speaking, Vox is a very, very good officer to have on a defense situation, but she kind of sits well on an ATG, right? She doesn't really work on other units, but on an ATG, she offers that extra bit of damage because it has the garrison damage, for example, and the ATG's normal attack is kind of really strong with the ATG itself. So that's kind of, you know, a really bonus part with putting her on an ATG. It's what a lot of people have. So we're going to keep retraining. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and talk the whole time it's retraining, but just for this one time, I want to kind of give an explanation of what we're going to be doing. So we're going to test the different officers. Now, I'm not going to test, for example, Vox with every officer. I'm not then going to test Argent Flame with every officer. I'm gonna kind of pick and choose some of the main ones that you guys have requested, and that way we could try to come to a bit of an agreement, but there are gonna be a lot of testing. So without further ado, guys, let's jump in and quickly do a second attack. So as I mentioned, we're gonna try and get those averages out there. So here is attack number 2. Let's get it underway. And honestly, from a standpoint of, you know, how long that lasted, just by watching it, these kind of seem pretty fast. You know, the normal attack coming in is obviously doing a decent amount. The ATG at the moment is only got one offensive skill shot, if you think about it, which is Eagle's offensive skill shot. The normal shot is the thing that's doing the most damage, though, by the looks of it. So as you could tell right there, it was going down and down and down, and then the last part just instantly almost destroyed, which is very weird because normally with this officers on here, you actually end up having more protection the lower you get in HP. So I'm surprised that it dies so fast. So we're going to quickly retrain, and here it is, guys, the battle report. So both battle reports here, the first one was 20 seconds. The second one was 22 seconds. Now, in the damage suffered, as you can tell here, we can see 7.02 million damage came from officer skills. Now, if we go to the first one here, the officer skills on this side was only 6,580,000. So I'm really not sure what happened on this first one. If we have a look here, the ATG itself, the ATG only done a little bit of damage with the officer skill set. So I'm really not too sure why that is. In fact, I'm so not sure that I am actually going to do a third test with this one combo. Obviously, if we get the same results out of 2, we'll redo it again. We'll keep that. But with this one being so different, on that first one, we got almost no damage dealt from the skills, whereas this one was 7 million. It is just a bit weirder to me. You know, in my personal opinion, I think that's a bit weird. It's not normal. So we will do one more test here to have a look. All right, let's quickly do one third and final testing, guys, just because, as I mentioned, the officers on there, obviously Vox does not have any skill damage whatsoever, but Eagle does have skill damage, so he should have been dealing a lot of more skill damage than the value that we saw, which is why I was kind of expecting, you know, a much different result. So we will do it one more time, and as you can see here, this visually looks a lot more normal from the attack itself, coming from an ATG onto a super heavy. Now, again, it is going to be slightly random because you do have to take into consideration penetration isn't guaranteed. It's, you know, RNG. So testing something like this where the main attack is the majority of the situation, that could genuinely be what it was. So, for example, the penetration coming in could have just killed it quick enough, but it was 20 seconds, which means we should have had at least 2 skill shots go off within that time, therefore meaning that we should have, in fact, been able to see a lot more damage than the original amount. So, as we come in here, we can now see again that there was absolutely no skill damage done whatsoever, and I'm wondering why that is. Could it be that the shields themselves actually stopped the incoming damage from the skill shot, and that's actually what it done? So if we have a look here, the healing and the shield was 61.9, and in this one it was only 41.2, but in this one it was also 41.2. So again, maybe you guys can let me know what the difference is here, because I'm kind of speechless, actually. I generally don't really know what I'm looking at. But this one lasted for 31 seconds. This one here lasted 22, and this one here lasted 20. That is kind of the main situation we're looking at. So with that bearing in mind, we will go through and we'll kind of have a look to see what the situation is going to be moving forward. But let's get this unit retrained. We're going to be using a lot of these training buffs because the super heavy takes forever to retrain. So let's quickly jump on and change the officers for the ATG. So guys, before we jump over to the other account, I quickly want to go through something I've noticed. Now, over here, as I said, we went and had a look at the damage dealt and stuff like that, and we can see the information, right? It shows us here damage dealt, the base, damage taken, and the base, obviously, what we took damage from was the ATG itself, and we also took damage from the base itself as well. Now, as we see here, it's showing us the information that the damage dealt by skill shots is this amount, and the damage dealt by the normal unit itself is this amount, okay? Now, take into consideration that 176 mil here, and then we've got 800k here. And if we go over to this one, obviously we see similar results to the total of 177 mil, and then again down here, a total amount 177 mil. This shouldn't be changing regardless, right? We know that this should stay the same amount, but we should see roughly the same sort of thing happening. But the fact that we have under 100 mil here, 7 mil here, and then under 100 mil here again on the final one, what I want to show you is now I'm going to log on to the other account and we're going to see what that stats show, and they are completely different. Why are we not getting the same results on both accounts? That's something that we need to look into. So let's head on over there and see what the difference is. Okay, guys, so here we are on the actual test account, that's the ATG. And if we have a look here at the battles, now the first one, as we can see here, if we have a look into the information, we can see that we actually had 25.7 mil damage. Now, again, we're getting 171. So the normal attack is showing the same result as what we were seeing over there. But over here, instead of it being 8 or 600k, we're seeing the 25.7 mil. Now, if we have a look over this one, we can see the same results. We see 159 on this part, but then on here we have 33.3 mil. Why are we not seeing the same information on both accounts? That's why I'm hoping that you guys might be able to tell me this sort of information, because I generally have no clue as to why we're not seeing the same sort of information, right? It doesn't make sense to me why we're not seeing that same information. And then finally over here, we can see that we actually done 34 with 178. So yeah, again, I'm not 100% sure why we're seeing very different information here. Maybe you guys can let me know down below. The next combination I want to test, again, we're not going to be pairing Vox with everyone. It's just sort of a little combination that we wanted to go through. I've been requested. This is one of the biggest requests, okay? The biggest request is to do with Meastro. Now, as everyone knows, Meastro is more of a, even though it says field here, he's more of an officer that's designed for the ATG. Obviously, he has his burn-in, he's got his pen attack, his normal attack boost, which is very, you know, critical for an ATG style unit. But with this being said, we're going to give Meastro a go, and we're going to see who we can sort of pair him with. And we're going to go through just a couple of different scenarios here. We're going to be pairing him with Eagle. We're also going to try him with War Machine. I also want to try him with Red Heat, because obviously Red Heat inflicts that extra burning, and it's also going to help buff this skill here, which inflicts burning on all stain for the coefficient 200. So if we're increasing that burning from Red Heat, that would also be a big one. So let's quickly jump in and let's take a look. All right, guys, so here we go. This is going to be our first test using Meastro with Eagle. Now, this is a very popular sort of setup that a lot of people use. Meastro is probably by far the most, I don't want to say controversial, but it's kind of, a lot of people either love him or hate him. Me personally, I've never been a massive fan of him. He does seem to be, you know, a decent officer, but I feel like at this stage in the game, maybe if when he first came out, you had an excess of statues, he might have been worth investing in if you was, you know, someone who's particularly going after the ATG. But for someone who's more focusing on the Howies, he wasn't too strong. And at this stage in the game, I'm not too sure if he's going to be worth it, but I'm sure the testing will find out. So let's jump in and do the second attack. So here we are, guys. We are going to now go on to the second attack. We're going to try and obviously see just how much of a difference it is compared to the originals. Now, we're going to see a big difference in offense here because of the fact that, you know, we now have 2 offensive officers, not 1 defense and 1 offense. But of course, it also, at the end of the day, guys, does come down to your entire setup. Yes, we could find the best possible combination for the ATG, but at the end of the day, it might mean simply that that setup could be more beneficial on, for example, a howitzer. You know, for example, Red Heat, Stinger, these officers are very strong on a Howie. They might still be the best option on here, but would you rather them on here to take out the Super Heavy, or would you rather them on your Howie to deal more damage to more units? That's what you need to ask yourself. So no matter what the results are, there is always that factor when it comes to setting up your account. So moving on here, as we can see, guys, we have got a difference here in information. Now we can see from this side, we got 13 mil skill and we have 164 normal. And on this one, we have, let's have a look here, 12 mil skill and 164 on normal. Now the reason we're seeing a difference in results here is they're almost identical. We've got 13 and we've actually got 12.7. So we basically have the exact same amount. Now, with that being said, the first one lasted 20 seconds and the first one lasted only 12 seconds. So very big difference in time here. Now, again, I'm not too sure. Maybe it's something to do with how one of the skills work. But overall, guys, we're going to go over to the other account now and just have a look on their end what the stats were saying. Because as we know from the first test, they were very different. So let's head on over. So here we are, guys, on the other account. And we can see the information here that with this setup, we had 33.6 mil on the damage for the officer skills. And then over here, we also had 50 mil. So that's why we're having a big difference here. We can see 31 seconds this one lasted for, apparently. And then 22 seconds was this one. Now, again, I'm not too sure how we're seeing this sort of information. We've got 150 and then 33. Obviously, the 24 was taken. So 2 actually got killed by this here. Now, what's happened there, for example, is that these have left it one shot and then the base has killed it. Now, over here, the base hasn't killed any. And the actual ATG has done all the work. That's why we're seeing a difference in the amount. But as I mentioned, guys, it's really hard to do these sort of testings because we're getting such different results, right? We are getting such different results at the end of the day. With that being said, that was like the main sort of setup that a lot of people are asking for. So what I do want to do, guys, is I also want to chuck on Red Heat here. Now, I know Red Heat is strong, but we kind of just want to see what these two are like together, because I think that it's going to be a very, very strong effect having both of them with the extra burning on top. So that's going to be something we test out now. Let's jump back over and see how this goes. So let's jump in, guys. This is going to be the first, obviously, attack with Maestro and Red Heat, and we probably will see a very big difference here with the burning that will be inflicted. I think the burning is only going to be available on the extra infliction on the second skill, if I'm not mistaken, because the way Maestro works, I believe that first one he paints them, and then on the second one he deals the burning. I'm not sure, I might be wrong, it might be on the first one he actually deals this. But as I mentioned, guys, this is probably going to be one of the stronger options available. So we're going to quickly do the second attack, and then we'll go through the results. So guys, let's take a look at the two results. Now, I've done both attacks. Obviously, I'm not going to do both attacks on screen because it's going to take way too long. So here is the first one. Now, we can see that we had a damage suffered 35.3 mil from here. We had 142 mil. Obviously, we will be going on to the other account as well. And then here, we've got 54. We always seem to be getting more on the second one. But the first attack lasted 21 seconds. The third attack lasted 27 seconds, which is actually slower than the previous attack, which was with Eagle. So having Red Heat so far from this end has been a lot slower than when we had Eagle on there as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual results over on this page. Now, we can see here 31 seconds and 38 seconds, which compared to the prior 22 seconds and 31 seconds, it's a big difference, guys. I mean, in general, we can have a look here that the skill damage is literally half and half now. So before, we were doing a lot more damage with the normal attack. Now, that could just be getting lucky with the penetration, but also you got to remember those other officers do offer, for example, Eagle, he offers a lot of normal attack penetration on top of it. So that's one thing to take into consideration with. So having a look here, we can see that we are dealing almost half and half when it comes to the skill damage. But again, it is taking longer with this combination than it did with Eagle and Maestro. So already, I personally assumed that Red Heat would be one of the better options. But when it comes to the ATG, she is just better on a Howie. So yeah, at least we now know that Red Heat isn't technically the best option available. So we are now going to try another option here. We are going to go with one of the old school officers, and he is still one of the very strong officers when it comes to the ATG. I mean, look here, the image here is of an ATG. So we're going to jump on. Saber has been a very, very highly requested officer because in general, he just offers a lot when it comes to the ATG. Not only does he offer, obviously, just dealing decent damage here for the skill shot, but he also does extra damage against tanks and helicopters. He also deals more damage when they have less HP, and finally he obviously has the skill shot, the gambling chance. So with that being said, guys, we're now going to do an attack with this setup. Let's see how it goes. So let's jump in. We have got Maestro and we have got Saber. Now, Saber has always been a very strong contender for the ATG. He offers just a lot of extra damage. So let's just take a look how strong this is compared to what we have already seen. So far, it's looking kind of standard. It doesn't seem like anything extraordinary is coming to light, but you never know, we might be able to see something different in the results. So that was the first attack. Let's quickly go through and do the second attack, and we'll be back with the results. So both attacks are done. Now let's quickly have a look at the testing. So the first one that you saw here was 21 seconds, and the second one that you saw was 20 seconds. This at the moment so far has been the fastest. Now, could that be because of Saber's actual ability to get extra skill shots off? Let's quickly have a look and find out. So the first one here, as we can see, is 15 mil. The second one here is 15 mil. So these are basically identical. They didn't get any extra shots off with Saber's thing, but overall, the time in which it took to kill is much quicker. As we can see, 20 seconds and 21 seconds compared to the 27, 21, pretty similar there. These at 20. I mean, to be fair, you got the 12 one here, but I think this was from Eagle, and I think this so far has been one of the faster options. Now, again, 10 seconds does seem a bit weird. I don't know any of them that lasted quite that long. But that could have been also, I don't know. We'll have to check that one out. But with that being said, though, guys, as I mentioned, this so far has been feels like one of the faster options. So let's quickly jump on to the other account and see from that side what the results are showing. So, guys, here are the results from the account of the ATG. So we can see here that we had 143 with 55.5 on here. And then we also had, again, 55 on this one. So these were very, very similar results both times around, which means Saber's skill didn't go off any extra time. Now, with that being said, guys, as we mentioned, this was both 31 seconds for the attack. Now, if we look at previous ones where we had Red Heat, 38 seconds. This one was 31 seconds, of course. We then had 31 seconds for this option, but we also had a 22-second one. So, again, these results are coming in very, very different for each result. Now, the main one we can see here, this was over 40 seconds for both of these. 41 seconds. Oh, no, this was 32 seconds. But overall, guys, it kind of is hard to tell realistically just how good a unit can be. Because, as I mentioned, we're getting the same sort of results almost every time. They're all between that sort of 20 to 30 seconds. Now, obviously, the 20 seconds one are going to be much better option. But again, we've only had one result showing that 20 seconds. The rest of them are all 30 seconds or more. And this here, the 22 seconds, is the only one that is actually showing as something different. But we're not too sure why it's the only one. But from what I can tell, I think... So I'm actually noticing one difference. And it's because in that one that was only 22 seconds, the base itself managed to kill some. So I'm thinking due to reload speeds and stuff like that, it was lucky that the base got the killing in, because in all the other ones, the base isn't actually getting the lucky shots in. So I think we need to exclude this one here where they actually managed to get some kills off, because I think just in general, that's what made this one and one only a lot shorter than the rest of the averages. The average of them is definitely a different scenario. Now, we do want to use the other account for testing the timer, because this here, the base remains a little bit active and then you get the report in. Whereas when you lose your unit, that's kind of gives us the information of how long the main unit itself lasted for. With that being said, guys, as mentioned here, honestly, we can kind of see that so far, this one has been slightly more, realistically, it's been slightly better. So, at the moment, this seems to be the better option. But we do have, obviously, Eagle. So, I do want to now get rid of Maestro. Now, the reason we're going to get rid of Maestro is we're going to try and find out another option. Now, for this option, guys, we are actually going to be using Frostfire. Now, what I actually want to do is we're going to do one more. In fact, we're going to do one more with Maestro and Frostfire. And the reason we're going to do that is because I want to see the difference between Maestro and Saber, and then Maestro and Frostfire, because obviously Maestro and Frostfire are very similar officers. So let's quickly put that on. And now let's give this a try. So here we are. We have now got Maestro with Frostfire. We're going to give this a try. And then afterwards, we'll do the Frostfire with Saber. So as we can tell, obviously, Saber has always been very much, you know, considered to be similar to Frostfire because of the fact that they both have the same ability to call it in. The difference on, you know, how far away the unit is also depends on, you know, how much extra damage they will be dealing. So with that being said, they're very similar officers in general. So we're now going to test them out. Let's quickly get the second attack done and we'll go through the actual testing and the results. So guys, the results are in for the Maestro with the Frostfire. Now we can see here 151 with 25 mil. And then over here, we also have 141 with 35 mil. So very, very similar. Now, the 21 seconds on the first attack, 25 seconds on the second attack. Now, if we go over to here, where it was 21 seconds, 20 seconds. So, Maestro, obviously, with Saber, did do better both times than Maestro with Frostfire. Now, let's check out Frostfire with Saber and see if it's any different and any better. But first, of course, we will go over to the other account and see what it looks like over on that side as well. So let's take a look at the battle results over here. Now, we can see 31 seconds, 35 seconds, whereas over here, it was 31, 31. So as we know, over on the other one, we can kind of get the same information. We had a total here of 129 with 84. And then on the other one, we had 131 with 63. Compared to over on this one, where we actually had more skill damage done with Frostfire than we did with Maestro on both attacks, which is kind of cool and interesting to see. Obviously, as we know, Frostfire does offer a little bit more on the offense, but he also offers a lot of defense as well. So that's the big difference. So now, as I mentioned, guys, I want to test out the two of them together. And with this gambling duo, just how lucky we could genuinely get with some of this defense. So let's test this one out. I'm actually really excited to see this one. So guys, let's do our first attack here with the Frostfire and Saber. Now this obviously has such big potential, but it also does genuinely depend on the gambling luck of whether or not you're going to be getting those extra coefficients going off in the end. And as we can see right there, some definitely have gone off early, so that's kind of exciting to see. But overall, it does generally still feel like it's the same amount of time, if not maybe even longer. So we'll do the second attack and we'll look at both of the reports. Okay guys, so let's take a look at both of the results here for the Frostfire with Saber together. Now the first attack was 24 seconds, not too bad. The second attack, 16 seconds. That is phenomenal. So let's quickly take a look here. So the first one, we can see that we had 124 mil with 53 mil on the damage. Again, we will check this out over on the other one. And then on this one, we can see that we actually had almost very similar, but again, I'm assuming maybe this could come down again, guys, to the ATG itself just penning, right? It could be a pen thing, but on this test, it was only 16 seconds, which is a crazy difference to the normal, you know, the normal 21 to 25 that we're normally getting. As we can see here, 24, 16. It's crazy difference, almost so different towards the 12-second one that we saw over here, which again doesn't really explain how we got to that situation. But overall, guys, so far it kind of does seem much better in general, but again, we're going to go check it out on the other side. So guys, let's jump in here and take a look at the results from this end. So for the previous one, which was Maestro and Saber, we had 31 seconds and 35 seconds. Now over here we are seeing 34 seconds and 26 seconds. So let's check this out. Let's refresh our minds. For Maestro and Frostfire, it was 131 with 63.9. So over here, we are going to see a bit of a difference here. We are seeing 104 for the normal attack, but 92 for the skill damage. So genuinely a lot more skill damage going off. I think this one also had a decent amount of extra shots on it. That's the first one we saw. And here's the second one. In the second one here, we can see 111 with 80 mil on the skill shot. So again, this was the one that was only 26 seconds. I genuinely, obviously, I'm trying to understand this as much as you guys, but overall so far, this seems to be a more stable, faster approach, but it's also very similar to the rest. Like, all of them genuinely do seem to be very similar in results. Now, I want to test out one of the combinations that you guys have suggested, which is going to be probably the strongest option, and that is going to be Madame Vindicta with, as we've seen Mag make a video recently, with Wings of Wunderlust. Now, let's quickly give this a try. This is obviously two of the newest exclusive lounge officers. I expect it to be the best, one of probably the best options, but let's really take a look at just how strong this is going to be. So here we are, guys, probably in my eyes going to be the strongest option available. Now this is obviously Madame Vindicta, and we have also got Wings of Wunderlust. Now Wings of Wunderlust is just going to increase the damage so much, and on top of that, we then got Madame Vindicta with her potential crit and all of the other options of her just high damage output. Already, that felt so much stronger than what we've seen already. But again, we might be wrong. So let's quickly do the second attack, and then we'll be back with the results. So here is the results for Vindicta and the Wunderlust. We have 18 seconds on that first attack, which already is much faster. And then we have 16 seconds on the second one. So yes, this is by far the strongest option available. But of course, those officers in general are very, very, very good on other units. Now, obviously, if you have a full artillery setup, you're probably going to want to be using Vindicta on another howitzer, for example. Let's quickly have a look here. We can see that we had 141 mil from the normal attack and 27.6 mil on the secondary. Now, the reason it's so much lower here is because it's only Vindicta dealing that skill damage. Obviously, the main damage from the officer here, he's only going to be dealing just extra damage overall for the unit, not skill damage. So that's why that is. And then on the second one, we see the same sort of information here. But again, it's the time it takes to kill. So 16 seconds and 18 seconds on both of them. Genuinely, guys, I think is very, very strong. So let's quickly change this up and see what else we can do. So let's jump into the results over on this end first. Now, the first one we can see 28 seconds. And then on the second one, we can see 26 seconds. But of course, this one's longer because the base lasts. It's hard to explain. But here we can see the exact damage. So we had 126 mil with 65 mil. Now, considering she is the only one dealing skill damage, that is still relatively high. And then on the second one here, we can also see the damage here, 52 mil with 151. So one thing I do want to see is, so far, if we go through, Eagle seemed to be a very genuinely decent officer. So I want to see if you have Wunderlust and Eagle, because as we know, guys, Wunderlust and Eagle are very, very strong competitors. They offer the ability for that normal attack to come in extra strong. So that is something I'm going to look at right now. So here it is. We are going to try out Wunderlust with Eagle. I feel like this could be a very good option. Now, yes, of course, Vindicta is going to be super strong, but she is preferably going to be wanted somewhere else, preferably on, say, like a howitzer, for example. So let's quickly have a look at what this combination is going to offer. So let's go ahead and we'll do our first attack here. This, as I said, is going to be with Wunderlust and Eagle. I feel like boosting Eagle, who has genuinely a decent amount of that extra incoming of normal attack, could be enough to overpower and make him stronger. But at the same time, I get the feeling right now, just by watching this, that might not necessarily be the case. So we'll do the second attack and we'll have a look. So here are the results, guys. We have got Wunderlust with Eagle, and although it didn't look too fast, 17 seconds on the first one, 11 seconds on the second one. This was even quicker than the other one overall on average. So let's take a look here. As we can see, the damage itself, again, wasn't anywhere near as much as the Vindicta one when it comes to skill damage. But the amount of damage output, obviously, for the normal, because we're just increasing the amount of damage output we are putting in there, I think that is absolutely phenomenal. 17 seconds and 11 seconds. Eagle is by far a very strong contender when it comes to actually dealing damage for the ATG. So, guys, so far, are you genuinely impressed? I think the fact that Eagle, which is generally a pretty old school officer compared to all of the new ones we've had since, he is still one of the best for the ATG, and that's genuinely surprising. So let's jump over, and we're going to do one of the biggest ones now, which is actually going to be Argent Flame and Stinger. Let's just see how much that combination does. And as we know, it's a very strong contender, but normally people would use this on their Howie instead. But let's see how it does when it's on the ATG. Before we change those officers over, guys, let's quickly take a look on this account as well. We can see 27 seconds and 21 seconds. Now, overall, it's going to be, on average, faster than most. So that is genuinely kind of impressive to see. I think that the Wunderlust, of course, if you have Wunderlust and you are a Howie main, the ATG is where you want him. He is absolutely phenomenal. He is the main thing that's making the ATG so impressive. But the fact that Eagle, you know, we had Vindicta with this officer, and now we've got Eagle with this officer, and Eagle, in fact, is dealing that extra bit of damage in quicker, is genuinely impressive. So, as I said, we're going to quickly test out one of the very, very strong competitions here, and we're going to have the good old Argent Flame with the Stinger combination. There he is. So we're going to add him on, and overall, guys, it's going to be kind of cool to see just how well this does. Let's test it out. So again, guys, my predictions for this combination is, although they are both good officers, I think they excel with the splash damage. In this situation, there is absolutely nothing to splash, so I don't know if they're necessarily going to be exceptionally amazing compared to other officers. but that seemed pretty damn fast to me. Now, obviously, both of these officers offer a lot of extra protection when it comes to the offense. So if we quickly go through here, Stinger, he obviously offers a lot of extra damage. He also offers even more damage if you are garrisoned inside your base. He also reduces the shield from officers as well, which is genuinely a really good combination. And overall, you know, he just has a decently high amount of coefficient even without the AoE of the extra stuff. Then for Argent Flame, obviously he also has a pretty decent, it's only 1500, but he also offers the aid that extra boost of damage. He also has his own damage intensity of 35% when garrison, and he increases his firepower, which again, firepower is nothing too special, but it's still some form of offense, which is really nice. So I think another combination I do want to find out is maybe Stinger with Eagle, because as we know, Eagle so far has been a very, very strong contender. Or the other one would be, say, Stinger with Eagle, because so far, again, Stinger also offers a lot of that extra oomph on top. Let's get this second attack done, and we'll see the results together. So let's quickly check out the Stinger and the Argent Flame one. So 13 seconds and 19 seconds. Bit of a difference between the two, but overall, still very, very decent. Now, that will be because of all the extra damage they get when they're garrison. And of course, don't get me wrong, they would still be very good on here. But for example, that splash damage that would normally be going on to other units, for example, because this is an ATG, obviously ATG isn't the strongest when attacking other Howies and stuff, which means the skill shots from the splash damage would do a lot more damage when on a howitzer compared to being on an ATG. So that's something to take into consideration. Yes, these officers will still be very good on the ATG, but I genuinely do believe that they will still be better on a howitzer just because of the extra splash damage and the more kills they would get in that aspect. So 132 with 45, and on the second one we also had a 121 with 55. So overall, guys, much faster than the average of the other ones we've been seeing. But again, these two officers are very exceptional when on, for example, a Marty howitzer. So take it as you will. You definitely could put this on an ATG because, again, it's a very strong contender. So let's quickly check out the battle report from over here. We have 23 seconds, 29 seconds. Again, it's almost as good as the previous one with Eagle and Wunderlust. So again, these are free-to-play officers, but as we have mentioned multiple times, you definitely want to think about the other options available. So yeah, overall we can see here 105 with 86.5, and then over here we had 116 with 60.9. So yeah, great option in my personal opinion, but I do potentially think that they might be better elsewhere. So one combination I do want to try is going to have Stinger, and I'm also with Stinger going to then put Eagle. Now, I do think when attacking a base, so the reason I want to get this one combination is, for example, in my option, when I'm attacking a base, I obviously have Futurus and I on my howitzer. I then have the new Frostfire with Liberty, and then I have Flame with Antonina. Now, believe it or not, Flame and Antonina does more damage to a base than Flame and Stinger. And that's purely just because the fact that he loses out on a bit of damage when you're coming out of the base with Stinger. And also on top of that, you also get the skill damage increase from Antonina as well. So just because of that alone, when we've done the testing before, we do know for a fact that Flame with Antonina is better when attacking a base than Flame with Stinger. So that means Stinger's left over for me. Now, with Stinger being left over, he's currently sitting on my ATG. So if we now test out another really strong option, let's just say I don't have time to switch over to my defense build, this is what I'm going to be left with. So let's just see how good this combination is, and I think overall it's going to be a pretty good one. So let's jump in. So here it is, guys. Let's quickly do our first attack here with Stinger and Eagle. I'm hoping that this is going to be a pretty solid option compared to the rest, but of course we'll find out once we do both of the testing. Now, guys, obviously if I haven't done your desired combination, I do apologize. We're trying to get through as many as we can, but already, I'm not exaggerating, guys, I started recording this video exactly 2.5 hours ago. So with that being said, it has taken a long time. I know this video isn't 2.5 hours long, but the time it takes me to retrain every single unit, the time it takes me to go through both accounts, changing everything around, Honestly, it's a lot. It takes a long time to do all of this, so I hope you guys are enjoying it. Remember, if you haven't done so, please think about hitting that like button. I hope you're enjoying it so far, guys. Let's quickly do the second attack, and then let's check out the results. So guys, let's check out the result here for Stinger and Eagle. Now, the first one was 19 seconds, the second one was 13 seconds. Overall though, guys, this is still pretty decent. It's exactly the same as the one before. We had Argent Flame and Stinger, so having Stinger with Eagle is pretty much identical in time to actually kill them. I genuinely am getting really impressed. These free-to-play officers are generally so good, even compared with those exclusive lounge officers. So first of all, guys, before changing the officers, let's quickly check onto the other account and just see the result from that end. So guys, let's quickly take a look from the ATG side of things. We had 30 seconds and 23 seconds, coming in with a decent amount of damage from the officer skill damage, but the main thing was honestly the actual normal damage. Normal damage is definitely more. We're going to keep Eagle on, but one officer we're going to change here, which is actually going to be War Machine, because War Machine, believe it or not, guys, yes, he isn't obviously the best officer on the game. He's not anything crazy, but you get him from a very low level in the game. He's a pretty decent officer. He's, you know, in general, a pretty good officer. He offers 15% damage. He offers a 20% firepower, which again isn't much, but he also offers the load time, which is basically another 10% damage. He then offers, just in general, more load time here, and he also offers 1200, well, 1300 actually technically when awakened. So I think overall, guys, it's still a decent officer, especially the fact that you basically get him for free pretty early on by using the Alliance store to buy his statue. So let's check this out. So guys, here it is, the first test with War Machine and Eagle. Let's quickly have a look. So far, it's seeming pretty average compared to the rest. Obviously, the skill damage is definitely a lot lower than normal, but let's hope that the rest of that damage can just keep it up there, especially for those smaller players. I definitely think it's a solid option. So let's do the second attack and check them out together. So here we are, guys. Let's check out the combination using War Machine. Now, 17 seconds on the first one, 21 on the second one. Overall, still pretty damn decent. Again, it's not the fastest we've had, but it is definitely in the middle of the list there. So with that being said, guys, as we can tell, the damage itself coming in with the skill damage isn't there, because we are using two of the smaller skill damage officers, but the damage itself, the time, 17 seconds, 21 seconds, it's definitely on the lower, it's killing at a decent amount. So with that being said, let's quickly check out on the other account. So here it is, guys, over on the ATG account. So we have got here a total of only 43 mil on the damage for the skill and 50 here. So for the fact that they're both offensive officers, 50 mil isn't exactly high, but again, it makes up for it in the terms of the normal attack damage. Now, here it is, guys, 31 seconds and 27 seconds. As I said, it's genuinely doing decent. Overall, I think that, it's definitely a contender if you want to be using him. So, guys, as I mentioned, we're going to be testing another option here. Now, believe it or not, this is kind of a bonus on top one, and I kind of got the theory because of this officer here, where he offers you 80% damage intensity, and he obviously offers you a lot more damage overall than just 80%. He also offers you 30% from here. He offers you normal attack boost from here. It is a very strong officer. With that being said, the bear, he offers damage intensity of 50% and normal attack boost of 40%. And he also obviously has his other skill here, which is 10% damage. So this is 50% damage, 40% normal attack. And let's be honest, it's not far-fetched that this could be a good option. So this is like a bonus one. Yes, Tip of the Spear does also offer a damage boost, but he only offers 50%, and that's it. He also gives a little bit of firepower, but we are definitely going to give this a try as a sort of bonus last minute stand to sort of just see how well he does. So let's do our first attack here. As I said, this is using the bear, which is an infantry officer, but he does have two very kind of good skills for this. And then we're also going to be using Eagle. Now, as we've known, Eagle is a very versatile and quite honestly a really good officer just as an all-rounder. He's a very nice officer to have on your unit for a majority of these testings. So let me know what you think. Do you agree that Eagle is averagely one of the best officers to have on your ATG, or do you actually prefer him not on your ATG? Let me know down below, guys. So, guys, here is the report for the bear with Eagle. And on the first one, it is 19 seconds. And on the second one, it's 23 seconds. So, overall, it's genuinely not terrible. Once again, guys, I feel like it's one of those things where, you know, it works. It's not the best options. It's definitely not the fastest. But overall, guys, I think it is a genuinely considerable, decent amount of, you know, extra damage coming in, because he's just offering 60% damage, 40% normal attack boost, and then obviously that's already getting boosted along with Eagle's boost as well. So, guys, I think so far this has been absolutely, genuinely very intriguing to find out. So there it is, guys. We have done so much testing today, and I'm not exaggerating, guys. At this very moment in time, it took 4.5 hours to record all of these things, get everything retrained, everything. It was crazy. That super heavy takes a long time to retrain. So, guys, as always, please think about hitting the like button, sharing the video if you do appreciate all the time it takes to make these videos. But let's get down to the results. So, as we can tell, guys, the clear winner of this whole testing is Wunderlust. Wunderlust is so strong because he just boosts that damage so much. It is absolutely unreal. And as we can tell, Wunderlust and Eagle at the moment seems to be the best. Maybe I could have tried Wunderlust and Meastro. Maybe I could have done a lot of other options. For example, Wunderlust with Saber, Wunderlust with Frostfire. Like, all of these tests can still be done by other people. They're more than welcome to find out who the best is with Wunderlust. Maybe if this video gets enough likes and enough comments down below, I'll even do that video again. I'll go through and just test with Wunderlust what is the best option. With that being said, obviously, excluding Wunderlust, because he is an exclusive lounge officer at the end of the day, he's hard to get hold of. It does take a long time if you're free to play. So with that being in mind, if we're talking about just the non-exclusive lounge officers, the second best option on average is probably going to be Flame and Stinger. But here's the caveat to that. Flame and Stinger on, for example, a Howie is going to get you a lot more kills. Sure, this is killing that tanking unit just averagely a little bit quicker, but at the end of the day, Flame and Stinger priority should be on a howitzer, because it's the splash damage of the AoE is going to just be so much more when it's on a howitzer rather than being on an ATG. That's just the harsh reality of it at the end of the day. So my personal opinion is, I still, even though they had the second sort of quickest time on average, I don't think they're going to be the best suited option. Now, Eagle, in my eyes, you know, he's a versatile officer. He works on almost any unit. He's not the best on Howies and stuff, but he works, right? But when it comes to the ATG, genuinely, he is a very strong competitor. Now, if you want to have as much damage protection as possible, then Vox is still a good option, right? Yes, she only had 20 seconds, 22 seconds, and then on one of them it's 31 seconds. Although she had a small amount of time, at the end of the day, she's also boosting your base's entire protection by 30%. So including that 30% protection, and she's still not terrible, she's still pretty decent on the ATG, I think she's worth keeping. If you want to try and deal as much damage to that officer as quick as you can, for example, Maestro and Eagle is a good option. Alternatively, you could even use War Machine and Eagle, because War Machine and Eagle was also a pretty good combination. And as we know, War Machine is a free-to-play officer who you could pretty much get at the start of the game. So, with that being said, guys, what was your favorite option? What do you think is going to be the best person to put with Wunderlust? Please let me know down below who you think is going to be the best combination with Wunderlust. But overall, guys, I just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you for the journey we're on. We're actually getting really close now. We are almost at 5,000 subscribers. That is insane. So if you guys do enjoy the content, please think about sharing this video out to other members in your alliance, even if it's other members in your entire server, and just ask them to come and show support by clicking that subscribe button. And remember to hit the like button as well, guys. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of their day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.